So, building a case for talent attraction management, why is it important? So really answering the why and the what. What is it? So first of all, why is it getting more important? And then I'll go through some ammunition that you can use in your work to convince stakeholders why this is important. And finally, what is it, talent attraction management? What do we mean when we talk about it? First of all, we have the demographic change. This is no news to anyone, I think, that we have a massive challenge when it comes to the fact that we are getting older and older and too few babies are born, basically. This is the ratio of people above 65 as a percentage of the whole workforce. And you see that countries such as Japan, and pardon my French, Japan is in deep shit for the future. So is Italy, so is Germany, so is France, so is Spain, so is Sweden, the country I'm from, and most countries in Europe. Since 2009, the European workforce is shrinking. Fewer people are on the labor market now than 2009, and it continues to shrink. That's the challenge we face, and it's a European problem. We have a skill mismatch, a mismatch between the people we educate and the people that our employers need and demand. If you look at ICT professionals, for example, 2010, we said that by 2015, we will lack 300,000 ICT professionals in Europe. Come 2015, it happened to be 700,000 that we lacked when we actually arrived at 2015. And now this year we say, well, 2020, we will lack 900,000 at least, probably more, according to some estimates. So it's an accelerating problem, and it's again a European problem. It's a zero-sum game. We are stealing from each other, basically. We need to think broader. We need to think globally. Same goes for healthcare. By 2020, shortage of 1 million healthcare workers, again, a European problem. To this, we can add that the increasing role of creativity, innovation, knowledge in all of work life exacerbates the whole competition for talent. There's a Berkeley professor called Enrico Moretti who wrote a book called Geography of Jobs. And he says that if we manage to attract a scientist, an ICT professional, software engineer, we can get a multiplier effect, providing more jobs in the whole economy. And he says, according to his research, that for every new high-tech job, we can create 5 additional jobs in the rest of the economy with this multiplier effect. So attracting one person can mean 5 new jobs for a region because of the increasing role of innovation. These people mean so much for the innovation capacity. Innovation is the way we can compete in a global economy. That's the way Europe needs to compete, and European regions. We can talk about increasing specialization. It's not anymore enough to look for a person sometimes in your region or in your country. You need to go international to find the people you need. We can talk about that places become more important. Charles Landry, a British scholar, says that in the past, people used to look for a company and then they moved to a place. Now they look for a place and then they look for a company. We can take these figures with a pinch of salt, but the trend is quite clear. Places are getting more important, which is a paradox in the age of seamless communication and age of digitalization. But that seems to be a fact. General Electric, half a year ago, and this is a very topical illustration, they said, we will move our headquarters. They had been in New York City in the past. They moved to Connecticut, a nice but sleepy suburb to New York, probably cheaper than New York City, Manhattan. But they said, beginning of this year, no, we're uprooting the whole headquarters. This is one of the biggest companies in the world, and we move it to Boston. That's where we want to be in the future. And this is what the CEO says. We're really excited about going there, this creative, dynamic city. And what were the reasons for this? Number 1, talent, access to talent in Boston. Number 2, access to innovation ecosystems that they couldn't find in Connecticut. So this is driving the real change, and the importance of place is increasing, and it's bigger than ever, I would claim. So summing up, how do you convince your stakeholders? I think we can talk about sense of urgency, why this is so important, and the benefits. And talking about sense of urgency, demography, we're getting older, too few babies are born. We have a skill mismatch between supply and demand, and resulting from this massive international competition. We see now that Germany, for example, is investing heavily in this field, on a federal level, on a state level, on a city level. So things and competition is heating up for sure. We can talk about the benefits. It's almost a known fact now in research that diversity creates innovation. We need to build diverse teams to create innovation. We need the internationals in our teams. We see that expats, they are usually net contributors to the tax system. They consume less from the public wealth fund than they contribute. More jobs, as I said, 1 to 5, up to 1 to 5 new jobs. And more FDI. Talent is the #1 reason nowadays why companies choose to invest in a place, like General Electric did in Boston. So this brings us to one of the main questions. What is it? What is talent attraction management? And these are the cornerstones. This is the model that we use. It's an integrated approach to working with different types of services, activities, quite concrete activities. It's quite hands-on. No overall strategies. These play a role too, but these are concrete services and activities. First of all, the attraction, the marketing. How do we attract people to come to our region? Talent reception. What do we do when they come? How do we welcome them? How do we provide a good soft landing? If we succeed with that, the next step will be even easier. People will feel at home. They will settle in. They will integrate socially, professionally. If we succeed with that, we build our reputation. People will say good things about us. It's a good place to be. If we build a reputation, our attraction will become easier. That's the simple logic. And someone needs to be in the middle, the fifth part, the management of the ecosystem, the glue that keeps this circle together. And that could differ who could be in the middle. It could be several organizations, it could be one organization, as long as someone is taking that responsibility to keep it together. I'll come back to the management in a bit. And then we have lots of other things that are important for the attractiveness of the place for talent. We have the framework conditions on the national level, policies, tax levels, economic climate, and so on. We have the enablers, maybe more regional, local, the clusters, the place branding, the accessibility, the education research. These are, of course, also very important. That's the framework we act within when we work with talent attraction management. Another word for managing an ecosystem could be orchestration. You need to orchestrate different types of players. And these 4 types should ideally be involved in the work. The work is of such a type, so one type of organization cannot be responsible. You need to work with business, with public sector, with research and academia, and with civil society. They also play a very important role. They usually know the needs of internationals the best. Public administration is very important to create stability and long-term focus. Business is very important to help finance, to be part of the steering committees and the advisory boards, and make it demand-driven so that the business's demands are met. So everyone plays a role. Everyone is important here, and someone needs to do the orchestration, and that's difficult. It can be likened to having or to being a conductor. Someone needs to make sure that the violin is there and the cello is there and the flute is there, but someone also needs to make sure that they play the same song when they play together. That's the orchestration. That's the metaphor for it. And it's a very difficult job. I can't lie about that, to keep this whole system together. You can say that you need to be a bit of a superhero. You need to have your special abilities or weapon of choice, as a superhero has, because it is difficult, but you need to have that to make it work. That brings us to a third part, the attraction, the marketing, the branding. How do you get people to be interested in your region and come to your region eventually? So these 2 parts, reputation and attraction, or branding or marketing, if you like. First of all, you need a value proposition. You need to say something that is interesting to your target group about your region. And this is increasingly difficult to stand out as a region. The competition is tough, and regions tend to say kind of the same things. I'll come back to that in a bit. Can you say this about your region? I think you could. And the thing is, everybody else can do that too, or they do. We all compete in the same industries, for example. Take clean tech or green growth. These are from the websites of some European investment promotion agencies. Basically saying the same things to the investors or to the talent. We have very similar messages. A Danish organization, Invest in Denmark, did a study where they compared the messages of Denmark, in this case, to 3 other locations. There's no point in trying to guess who the others are. These are Stockholm, Hamburg, and Turkey. If you look at the first, they are all central located, prime location, perfect hub, ideal location. Basically saying the same things to the investors or to the talent or to the tourists that you want to market yourself to. So that's the challenge we're up against. How do you stand out? How do you differentiate? How do you build uniqueness when we are so similar? And we see 4 strategies that are viable and effective for doing this. Engaging the talent in your work, making the talent co-creators of your marketing, because that's the best marketing there is. It's cheap and it's better marketing if your talents do it for you instead of you doing it yourself. Secondly, engaging the employers. Again, it's cheaper. The employers, they know how to do marketing and branding. They are companies, most of them. Finding your niche, and really finding your small niche sometimes. And finally, and maybe most effectively, how can you think in terms of disruption or innovation or experimentation, creativity, humor in your marketing to stand out? It's also very effective. And I'll give you examples of these 4 strategies. First of all, engaging talent, a participatory approach, co-creation, if you like, getting the talents to work with you. We have examples from Finland, for example, hiring the international students, make them cultural coaches to the Finnish companies they want to export to, in this case, China and Japan. They contribute with language, with market skills, insight into cultural understanding. And there are loads of good different examples of this from Denmark and Finland. Again, in Denmark, using MBAs, international MBAs, as export ambassadors for the local firms that want to export globally. Or in Finland, a very specific case, engaging Iranians to help Finnish companies to go to Iran. Makes sense, doesn't it? That's co-created marketing. Or building ambassador networks. There's a very good example from Denmark. There are a lot of Nordic cases here. So it's not because we are so extremely good at this in the Nordics. These are the cases that we have studied closest, but I'll give you more international and global cases as well. In Denmark, they have a network for international students. It's a bit of a competition to get in there. There are 500 people who are now members. They get to meet companies. They get courses. How do you write a press release, for example? They get to meet the royalties, the prince, for example. And then they get to write a press release after they met the prince in their own language, sending it to a newspaper in their home country. And I'll come back to this example in a bit, but it's very effective. Those who choose to move back to their country, they get the marketing package with them. Thank you very much for your time in Denmark. Please spread the word. So they go back to their country and they say hopefully nice things about Denmark. So it's not Denmark saying the nice things, it's these people saying the nice things. That's the co-created marketing. Brainport Eindhoven region, I would say this is probably the leading region in Europe when it comes to talent attraction management. They've been doing this for over 10 years in a very professional way. They have something called the Talent Box. It's a marketing and information portal, jobs in the region, how it is to live in the region, how you find schools for your kids, and all this important information. But it's also a matchmaking site for matching these talents with specific companies, not only for finding jobs, but also to post, where the companies can post challenges and problems they have that these people who are in this database can help solve. That's also, it's crowdsourcing in a way. So these people get to contribute to this region, irrespective of if they already live in the region or if they want to move to the region. So it's a way of creating value for both parts, for the companies and for the international talents. Second strategy, engaging the employers, getting the employers on board. Again, co-creation is a key word. We have a very good example again from Denmark, co-branding with employers. And what have they done? They have created a toolbox called Talent Attraction Denmark. And it's full of marketing materials, infographics, videos, facts, stories, what have you. How it is to live in Denmark or in different regions of Denmark, or how it is to work in specific clusters. And this is a plug-and-play solution. So the companies can take this material and use in their own marketing when they want to attract people internationally. This helps them to tell the story about Denmark. So it's a coordinated message about how it is to live and work in Denmark. So it's both employer branding and place branding at the same time. Very efficient toolbox and not too difficult to build and create. Second example, done by the same organization in Denmark, an attraction campaign running on LinkedIn and through a portal with 4 layers basically. First, there's Denmark. That's a landing page. People interested in building your career, okay, think Denmark. Then the strong clusters, IT, clean tech, life science. Click on the cluster, come to specific employers, employers that have something to offer and a specific job that you can apply to. And the employers love this. They are very happy to co-finance these kind of campaigns because it gives them a direct pipeline to the international talent through the place branding, becoming employer branding. Thirdly, finding your niche when it comes to marketing. And there are so many ways of going about doing this. For example, Startup Chile, I'll talk more about it in a bit. They focus exclusively on startups, global startups all over the world. Come to Chile, build your startup. Brainport Eindhoven region, the tech and the IT talent. That's it, nothing more. That's the niche they're going for. Biscaya Talent in Spain, focusing on those who have a bond to the region, who have lived there or who wants to live there in the future, perhaps. So a cultural tie, if you like. Copenhagen Capacity in Copenhagen, focusing on the 3 main clusters. You saw the campaign that I showed you before, ICT, Life Science, Clean Tech. Montreal, you know Montreal, French-speaking Canada. They only focus on other French-speaking countries, going to France, going to Brussels to recruit people, bringing the companies along. And it's a very, very narrow approach, but very, very effective. Companies are happy to pay because they go on these recruitment trips to Paris a couple times a year. 40 companies come along. There is a matchmaking process, a screening process, and thousands of people have been recruited this way to come to Montreal for work. And it's also good for the French authorities because they it helps tackle unemployment, for example. It helps the French authorities to promote internationalization. It's good for these young people to go away for a couple of years and then come back. So it's a win-win for everyone. So the question is, in your marketing activities, can you be even more targeted? If you talk about ICT, IT, can you talk about gaming instead? If you talk about tech or software, can you be even more specific? Front-end development. If you talk about Asia, maybe you can focus on one country in Asia. Maybe that market is enough. So don't spread resources too thinly. Focus your activities. That's the main message. Finally, when we talk about marketing, disruption, creativity, and humor, this is the most fun part, I think. This is a way of building uniqueness because it's very difficult to be unique as a place, as I've already talked about. But by being very innovative in your marketing, you can try to stand out. And this is about daring. This is about experimenting and daring to do new things. For example, do you as a place or organization dare to give away your Twitter account? That's what Stockholm did, City of Stockholm. They created an account called Move to Stockholm, and then they gave it to the startups in Stockholm who want to recruit internationals to work for them. So they are hosting the account 1 week each, or curating the account on a continuous basis, 1 week per company. So a company called Truecaller, for example, they used it last week to post jobs on the Move to Stockholm Twitter account, to post individual testimonials. An American girl saying, "This is Stockholm, I really love living there," to give it a more personal touch. Post that they're not only working, they're also doing after works, or play football and doing stuff outside work. It's a way of giving a picture of how would it be to live in Stockholm or work in Stockholm. And as a public sector organization, you take a risk, of course, because they can start tweeting about many different things that you don't want them to tweet about. So it's a risky business, and it can blow back to you in the media. But it's definitely worthwhile considering it, I would say. And again, it's not Stockholm who's saying this about itself. It's these companies saying this about Stockholm. It's more credible marketing, and it's extremely cheap. Costs nothing to set up a Twitter account and coordinate these companies, make this list. Much better than buying advertising, for example. Or do you dare to give away money to internationals? That's something that Chile has done with great success. There's a program called Startup Chile. It started some 6 years ago, I think. And they call it an entrepreneurial revolution. And it all started with a set of questions or a challenge. And the challenge Chile had, they said, we want to be an innovation or global innovation hub. How can we do that? Well, they came to the conclusion, we have no local mindset when it comes to entrepreneurship, no risk-taking. It's not there in the culture. We have a lack of networks for innovation and entrepreneurial activity. We have no ecosystem, really. There's no venture capital. How do we solve the problem? Well, let's import people who can help us solve the problem or attract people that can come here and help us. And then Startup Chile was born. So what is Startup Chile then? It's an international acceleration program for startups and entrepreneurs. And they give away money to these people. Those who are accepted into the program get equity-free capital. And it's not a huge amount, but it's not a small amount either. And 1,000 companies have been accepted. And this was the first country in the world who did this. And it came at a time when many countries kicked out people. The US, for example, made it more difficult to come there and work. Chile said, come to us instead. We give you money and a free visa. Very effective. They get the mentor and acceleration process to build their startup and launch it with Chile as a base. They get the social aspects, the soft landing, live, work, and play stuff outside work hours. And they get a chance to contribute to making history, making Chile change. And Chile has really changed. That's the interesting part. If you look at the international media coverage, you can see that all major media outlets in the world have published about it. Wired, Financial Times, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Business Week, all of them, and very much so, you can see over the years. So it's been an incredible media success because of its disruptiveness. It was the first program in the world that opened up and invited people with so open arms as Startup Chile did. They have had applicants from more than 100 countries, more than 1,000 startups selected. I think it's even more now. These figures can be a bit old. And it's changing Chile. It's changing Chile from within. People are becoming more entrepreneurial. These people are injecting new energy, new thoughts into the culture and into the economy. And they're also obliged to be mentors to Chileans, mentors to university students, going out to schools and talk about entrepreneurship, these international people who come, which is changing Chile from within in different activities. And interestingly enough, Chile is now what it wanted to become. It's one of the top entrepreneurial hubs, or considered as one of the top 20 hubs in the world, basically from nothing to being top 20 in the world. That's quite a feat. And I would say that this is the best place branding you can find. You have a goal, this is what we would like to be, or to be seen as in the world. What do we do to be that, to become that? So it's not really about marketing, it's more about becoming what you desire to be and build your reputation that way. Very interesting case. Do you dare to let your international students do the press? I'm coming back to this youth goodwill ambassador core of Denmark, the ambassador network of international students. They were encouraged to do press releases and send back to the country where they come from. And that they did to different countries all over the world. And there were press coverage in more than 40 countries worldwide from one event in Denmark. The students saying this, how great it is to study in Denmark. Very good marketing for Denmark. Or do you dare to use humor in your attraction campaigns? There is a semi-big town or semi-big city in Sweden called Jönköping. They launched a campaign some years ago. They said, let's focus on a target group, on a niche. Should be people 28 to 38. They should live in one of the 3 biggest cities in Sweden. This was a national campaign, not international. And they should have a link or a bond to the city in one way or another. How do you make sure they have a link? Well, they asked people in the city to nominate people they wanted to move back. So they asked people, can you nominate people living in these cities that you would like to see moving back, people that you miss? So they launched the Miss You Come Back campaign. They produced highly individualized marketing material. This is Swedish, and I'll translate for you. It says that, Caroline, your buddy, Marie, she misses you. It says on the marketing material. But they didn't stop there. So when this girl came to take the tram in Gothenburg one morning, she saw this billboard saying, hello, in this case, Malin, your best friend, Marie, Linnea, something, she misses you. She wants you to move back. Come back to Jönköping. That's where you should be, not in Gothenburg. So it struck kind of right in the heart, I would say, of these people. And these kind of campaigns they did all over in these 3 cities. Very individualized marketing, but very effective. 28% of those who were targeted or attacked by this marketing, they actually moved back. And they had a budget of 100,000 euros for this, which, if you think about how many people that it was 30 people that moved. If you think about the extra tax revenue, new jobs that was created, that was a small amount, and they did all sorts of activities around it. Not only this for these 100,000 euros. Very effective, very funny campaign. But if you think about personal integrity, I don't know. I'm not sure that everyone wants to be targeted like this in this personal way. So you always have to think about the risks you're taking. This is from Oulu, northern Finland. Anyone been to Oulu? One person has been to Oulu. 2. Do you have any idea what's going on here? This guy here, he represents a local startup. And it's a pitching event. He's pitching his startup idea to an international jury of venture capitalists standing on the ice. And the one who can stay the longest, this is in January, it's above the polar circle. So it's around 20 degrees, very cold. The one that can stay the longest and do his or her pitch, will win venture capital coming from this fund of international, and that's the international media in the background. BBC, CNN, everyone came there because this is such a unique event. Gave major publicity. It's called the Polar Bear Pitching, this event. Doesn't really have to do with talent attraction, but these talents, they will leave if they can't find the venture capital. Now they can find the venture capital, so they stayed, and it's very good marketing for this place, Oulu. They have a very strong tech cluster. Nokia used to be a very big player there. And you can think, maybe, is this only a marketing stunt? I would say no. This is the Finnish culture. This is the Finnish habit. This is the Finnish identity. So it's very, very tightly connected to who the Finns are. They do this. They go to the sauna and they go swimming in the lakes in the winter. So it's much, much more than a marketing stunt, I would say. It's very, very smart place branding, I would claim. Summing up this part. Number 1 strategy, engaging the talent, making them co-creators of your marketing and your branding. Same goes for employers, making them the co-creators of your marketing and branding. Finding your niche. Can you be more narrow than you are today? Very important recipe for success, I think. And finally, the disruption, the innovation. Daring to do things that others haven't done, to stand out from the crowd, because that's what you need to stand out from the crowd in this very highly competitive environment. That's the marketing, 1 part left. And then it's time for questions. What happens when people decide to come? The welcoming, the reception, the integration, the settling in. What do we do then? And this is equally, maybe even more important, because if you fail here, no one will come. People will say that, don't go to this place, it doesn't work. It's very, very difficult to find housing. It's very, very difficult to find good schools for your kids. It's very, very difficult to find a job for your partner. That's the number 1 reason why people leave a place earlier than planned, because their partner or their family aren't happy. We have elaborated a toolbox, or you can call it a roadmap for how to deal with the different stages you go through when you come new to a place. You have information needs in the beginning. You come, you need the soft landing into the place. You don't want to crash into a place. You have the social professional integration, very, very important. Settling in, thriving, getting new opportunities in the place. And you have the leaving and the mobility, because some people will leave. Some people talk about talent retention. I'm not too happy about the word talent retention, because not everyone will stay, and it shouldn't be a goal that everyone stay. stay. Mobility is good for everyone, but people should be happy when they stay, and they should stay as long as they want to. They shouldn't feel forced to leave earlier than planned. That's the idea here. And when people want to leave, if you help them to leave, what will happen then? They will be happy. They will be happy with you. You helped them to leave because they had said, I want to leave. I want to go somewhere else. Why not help them then and work with other places? And why not work with ambassador networks and alumni networks, keeping in touch with these people, getting ideas from them. If they're international students, for example, keeping in touch, maybe they want to move back when they come to an age where they want to settle down. So there are all sorts of good reasons to keep in touch with people after they leave, and not only see it as a negative thing that people leave. As long as they have had a good time and they will say good things about you, they will become your ambassadors. I'll talk about a few different aspects, not all of this. Expectations management, for example, introductory events, public services, and a bit more about social and professional integration. First of all, expectations management, it's all about managing the expectations someone has before they come to the place. I have a very good example from Iceland. It's an Icelandic gaming company called CCP Games. They have their head office in Reykjavik, Iceland, where they employ more than 300 people, most of which are international people. Has anyone been to Iceland? Yeah, 5 people. Has anyone been to Iceland in the winter? It's cold, not as cold as you may think. It's around 0 usually. So it's northern Scandinavia is much colder, but it's above all very, very dark most of the time. So what this company does is to fly people over for interviews. They never do telephone interviews, and ideally they fly them over during the winter so that they know what they are saying yes to when they move to Iceland. Don't come with false expectations. It is tough, it is very dark, but if you can stand that, you will like it here. That's how they manage the expectations, and people tend to stay longer after they started doing that. Introductory events, making people feel welcome, giving them the information and the contacts they need. An example from Finland, Helsinki, they run the Welcome Weeks every year with 40+ different events, from everything from how to find housing, jobs for spouses, schools, culture, sports, accommodation, everything you need when you're new in a country. And it's a collaboration between the city and the government and the universities and companies and NGOs. A very warm welcome from the region to the internationals. We are very happy to have you here. Welcome to Helsinki. Here are the opportunities you see. Another way of giving a warm welcome is to have an expat center or international house. I know you have an expat center here in Brno. We have started it, and it's a very successful one. Copenhagen was one of the other front runners in Europe. They have the International House Copenhagen. It's been around for a few years. People go from all over Europe to study this case. It's really, really innovative. They have everything under one roof. Public services, the government agencies, the city of Copenhagen, the main universities, the NGOs who work with language training, CV writing, job hunting, everything you need as an international. I used to live in Copenhagen a couple of years ago, before this existed, and it took about 3-4 weeks to get your paperwork in order back then. And I have a German colleague who moved there last year, and for him it took 45 minutes to get his paperwork in order. So it's very, very effective in making the services seamless, the public services. Everything under one roof, as I said, even a researcher hotel for researchers coming to Copenhagen to study or work. For those who want to go more digital, there's the app. Same services, but in a mobile app with a checklist where you can see the things you need to do, get your residence permit and all the things that you need to do to settle into Copenhagen. Coming to social and professional integration, mentoring networks, a way of connecting internationals with businesses, for example. Good examples from Finland, both for international students, for entrepreneurs, and for grown-ups, let's say, people who are working. Another example, it started in Finland, but you can now find it all over Europe. It's called Demola. It's an open innovation platform connecting students with businesses. Businesses who have an innovation challenge or a problem, they can go to the Demola Secretariat, which is made up of both people from the academia and from business. They put together an interdisciplinary team of students. It could be one scientist, one economist, business person studying business, someone studying culture, for example, in the same team, and with diverse backgrounds, both international and national students. They get 1 semester to solve this problem, and they get ECTS credits for it. And if they would arrive at an innovation, an IPR, they would get to keep the IPR, the intellectual property rights, so the company can buy it back from the students. So there's also an economic incentive in this. And it's working really well. The companies get lots of benefits. They get help with innovation, things they don't have time to work on in the daily work. The students work on it. And the students, they get a chance to learn about Finnish working life if they're international students. 40% of those taking the program are international students. They get social contacts, international students working with the Finnish student, and they work sometimes day and night together to solve this problem. So it's really a way of making it possible for these students to stay in this case in Finland, or the country where this is, because it's all over Europe now, the Diamola concept. Social and professional integration. Some people start their own company after this, for example, and stay. So if you can think about how to link your innovation ecosystem with talent attraction, I think that's a very highly effective way of getting people to stay and thrive in your place. Because this is for real. They get to contribute to real problems, and they are therefore encouraged to stay. And they feel wanted by the region, so to say. Same example from Sweden, in this case a trainee program, an innovation trainee program. And these trainees, they move around to different companies. So it's a very low threshold for the companies to join. They don't need to feel obliged that they need to hire someone. They can just take them on for a few weeks, and they have the possibility to hire them if everything works out. So it's a low threshold trainee program where you share the risk with other employers. And the students get a chance to find a job and stay in the region. One final best practice before summing up. Aarhus in Denmark. They have done everything that you need to do in integrating and getting talents to stay. They have a guide for everything, what happens before you come and after you leave. The one-stop shop, like in Copenhagen, they work a lot with how to find jobs for the partners that join, both men and female, of course. And lots of work around social activities and social networks, and one best practice that is worthy closer to study if you have the time. Summing up this final part of the presentation, reception and integration through public expert management, there's really a need for a multi-stakeholder approach. You need to work with all these parts of the quadruple helix that I showed you. You can't do it alone as an organization. This is very much a public issue, but also a private and academic issue. And NGOs need to be involved. They usually know the needs of the talents better than other organizations. Start early. Start before people come with some activities. Language training, for example. If you know that people will come to your region, ask them to start studying your language before they come, instead of giving them the language course when they come. A way of improving the integration. Build a relationship over time, from the before coming to leaving. It's very worthwhile to stay in touch with people and understand the needs they have in the different phases over time. And if you stay in touch with them, you can more easily solve their problems and help them meet the challenges, of course. And this aspect of social and professional integration, I think, is a key aspect of getting people to stay and also thrive, finding new opportunities in your region. And here I think innovation and co-creation, inviting people to be part of your problem solving in the region, working with your companies on innovation, for example, is a very effective strategy. And that creates ties and bonds between the internationals and your region and the employers in your region. So this is the different steps from pre-arrival to leaving in this toolbox. Summing the whole presentation up. Talent attraction management. It's an integrated approach to working with different aspects, from attraction to receiving to integration to building your reputation. And the better you do each step, the more easy the next steps will be. The better your reputation is, the easier it will be to attract, and so forth. That's the whole idea of working in a holistic, integrated manner with this. And the whole management in the middle. You need someone to keep the whole thing together, the orchestration. It could be one organization, it could be several organizations, as long as you work together and know who is responsible for what. If you have a region with both citywide organizations and regional organizations, you need to find out who is taking the steering wheel in this work, who is responsible, and not compete and duplicate each other's efforts. That's the most important thing when working with this. If you want to know more, we have training programs. There will be one international training program running in the spring. We had it last spring in Amsterdam and Copenhagen. New one coming up next spring. Check our website if you're interested in learning more about talent attraction management, or get a book and read about it. There's a good book, I think, soon that will be available for that. If you want to download handbooks, you see the address on our website. If you're interested in the handbook on talent attraction or on business attraction that we also have one for cluster development. You can find it all there, or drop me an email if you have any questions. Thank you very much for your attention. Questions?
Here is a question.
Hello, I'm just curious, how long does it take in Nordic countries to get working permission for the talent that you try to attract from outside of European Union?
In Sweden, too long nowadays. It used to be quicker, but then since the refugee crisis came, there's been a move of people in the migration agency to work more on that. So it takes longer now, a bit longer. But it could be everything from a few weeks up to, I've heard, 12 months. So it's really good, has really gotten worse, I'm afraid to say. And that's a big problem. Of course, people are scared if they hear that. They don't want to go to a place if you can't get a quick permit. So hopefully it will get better again. Average maybe 2 or 3 months, I would say, which is still long, especially for the startups. A startup can't wait 3 months to get someone. Maybe they have a new business idea in 3 months from now. Who knows? So they don't have the same needs, perhaps.
Any other questions?
So first of all, thank you very much for inspiring presentation. I have a question on, you mentioned that some of the startups are acquired by corporations. How do you guys deal with the IP, intellectual property, in these cases?
Oh, that's a bit beyond my specialty. I don't really...
Okay. So do you have any framework how we move the startup under the corporation? Because the goal here is to keep talents in the region, right?
Yeah.
But that's the whole change.
There's lots of work being done now by a national organization in Sweden, at least, the Swedish Incubation and Science Parks. They are now developing a framework for how to work with corporate venturing. That's all I know, but I know it's a framework being under development, so I can't say more details about it, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks.
But check the website. It's sisp.se. I think you can find information about it. sisp.se.
There is another question over there.
Thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. I have one question. Brno and South Moravia, maybe Czech Republic, is not Sweden or Denmark. So when I talk to some foreigners, especially global experts, they mentioned that they don't wish to have Czech Republic or Brno in their CVs, especially academics.
Okay.
Do you have some recommendation how to solve this different global position of Czech Republic or maybe Brno?
Yeah, we worked a lot with Eindhoven, for example, in Holland, and they have had the issue that they are quite unknown, and Eindhoven doesn't really say much to people. It's Philips and football, and that's basically it. So what they have done is not to highlight the place that much, but instead highlight the jobs, the content of the jobs. These are the cool, interesting dynamic jobs you can find in our region, to really focus on the quality and content of the professional development. I think that's one way of, you know, maybe downplaying the region or city a bit and more go into detail and find your niche, that this is what we're really good at, and find the target group for those jobs. Really identify down on an individual level, who are the people, who are the 1,000 people in Europe that we would like to attract, if you can do that. It's easier said than done, but there are ways of really pinpointing people and then try to match these two, instead of going too broad and try to attract people that won't be interested in any way, in any case. So content and quality of jobs, I would say. The best jobs you have, highlight them and show that we are well leading in this specific field, for example.
Are there
Does it make
any
sense?
other questions? Sorry. Any other questions? Yes, right there.
I would have a question. We have mentioned like the migration crisis. Someone can regard it as a threat, but someone can regard it also as an opportunity. My question would be, do you or have you come across some initiative, national or regional initiative, which would really use this situation as an opportunity? Thank you.
Yes, I have. I mean, Sweden is one of the countries in Europe that have gotten most refugees over the last year, and it's really been a change in the public mind, if you like, that this is not only a threat or something bad, and these people are not only victims, they're also people with aspirations, and you know, they want to contribute, they want to find a job, and there are quite many initiatives that have emerged only the last year that focus on and also use the word talent. In the past, talent used to be used to describe only highly skilled, a small niche group of top specialists, if you like, or top managers. But now the word talent, in Sweden at least, is also being used for refugees, to say that because among the Syrians who come, there are programmers and professors and people who want to contribute, and people with other skills who want to contribute to society. So yes, there are, there was one initiative, collaboration between LinkedIn and City of Stockholm, called, if you want to look it up on LinkedIn, Talent Now, I think. If you drop me an email, I can try to find it for you, because it's really good and to work with LinkedIn that have such a good brand. I think that was a smart way of focusing on in this case, Syrians and Afghans coming to Sweden. So things are happening, luckily, in this field.
Any other questions? So it's probably it. There are no more questions, Marcus. So
A question from me back to you, if anyone wants to answer it. What's your main challenge, would you say, now when it comes to talent attraction? If someone wants to try to answer that question, what would you need to do in the near future?
Hi, I'm Eva from FEI, so I'm from company. This is the discussion that we already started. It means that Brno market or Czech Republic market is heating, it's competitive. We are experiencing more than, I think, just compared to Q2, more than 40% increase of the job vacancies. So yeah, this is the way of how to do really, how to align companies' desire and place desire, let's say. Municipality and companies, we can call it universities, all stakeholders. And this is the biggest challenge. I think that everybody agrees with. This is why we are here, how to align together.
Yeah, having a common strategy or...
Yes. Common strategy and steering wheel. Who will be pushing?
The orchestrator. Thank you. Right.
okay.
Okay.
So one more applause for Marcus Andersson, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcus.